Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage United States Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Twice. He came to the Capitol Reason twice. That is how much he loves us, and that is how much he loves his wife, Hillary Clinton. Well, I am so honored to be with all of you, especially in my hometown. As you know, I grew up in Albany, and I have been so lucky in my lifetime to have real mentors and role models in my life that allowed me to be standing here today. You know my grandmother, she was the one who taught me that women's voices matter and that what you do with your time matters and that grassroots activism matters. And my mother, who was an amazing role model, she told me to never give up. She told me to embrace your ambition and reach for the stars. And then the greatest mentor of my life is Hillary Clinton. I was just a young lawyer in New York City when Hillary made her famous speech in Beijing, where she declared women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights once and for all. That was a pretty life-changing event for me. I knew at that moment that I needed to follow Hillary and get off the sidelines and get into public service. And before long, I got to hear Hillary speak again. And it was a big room just like this, and I was standing way in the back. And she's looking out in the crowd, and she says, decisions are being made every day in Washington. And if you are not part of those decisions, and you don't like what they decide, you have no one to blame but yourself. That was the moment I knew I had to get involved in politics. She inspired me to run for office, and she's been inspiring people every day of her life. And you just have to look at her life story to know. Look at her mother who was disowned at 8, working by 14, never gave up in her life, and knew because of the kindness of strangers, she had opportunities in life. She taught her daughter those life lessons, to never give up, that kindness to one another matters, that helping one another is what matters most in life. And so after she graduated from law school, did she go work at a big firm? No. She went to the Children's Defense Fund to help inner city kids and to help those with disabilities. When she was First Lady of the United States, what did she do? She fought hard so that every American could have access to basic health care as a human right. As Senator of New York, what did she do there? She fought hard for our first responders, for those who raced up the towers on 9/11 and then needed our help to stand by them in their greatest hour of need. So we know that Hillary never stops fighting. As Secretary of State, she fought hard for human rights and equal rights in every corner of the globe. So Hillary has spent her whole life fighting for everyone else. So what do? We need to fight for her now when she needs us. We have to raise our voices. We have to make the phone calls. We have to do the phone banking, knock on the doors. We must ask everyone we know to vote for her. We have to make sure that they understand why this election matters so much to us and so much to this country. We have to convince them that this election is about who we are as Americans, what we value most, what we hold dear. So we must never stop fighting for her because she has never stopped fighting for us, and that is why she will be the next President of the United States of America. Now it is my great privilege and honor to introduce our amazing Governor, Andrew Cuomo. Andrew, as you know, our governor has just passed the best and greatest paid leave program
powerful voice for all of New York and especially upstate New York, Paul Tonko. For Controller Tom DiNapoli, who's doing a great job. Let's give him a round of applause. And to all the members of the DRC, I am old enough now. I was young once. I was the son of once. Now, I'm just old. I remember when the DRC started. And I remember when there were just a few people talking about the DRC in the first conventions, in the first meetings. But the DRC stayed with it. They developed an agenda, they developed a power, they developed a constituency, and it has made the Democratic Party in this state a stronger, better Democratic Party. So give yourselves a round of applause. Now, Senator Gillibrand, how great is she, and what a great So I'm with Senator Gillibrand this morning, and the man who I'm about to announce in a few minutes, President William Jefferson Clinton. And it is a little bit like homecoming week for me. Your senator, before she was a senator, worked with me at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which I was appointed by Bill Clinton. So we were all in Washington, and we had a lot of great years. Those were great, great years for the country. They were exciting years for all of us personally. So we were reminiscing about the old days, and I was thinking about it. I was blessed. My political education came from two distinct universities. I went to Mario Cuomo University. And I went to Clinton University. And they both had the same underlying premise. Certain differences, different accents for sure, I can tell you that one. But they had the same underlying premise. And I took it for granted at one point. I thought that everyone believed the same thing. But I learned later on that it's not true. Their premise of government was that government is there to actually make a difference. Government is not an advocacy organization. It's not an idea think tank. It is a vehicle to make change. And that government is only as good as the results it gets. And it is about making policy happen on the street so you improve people's lives. My father used to call himself a progressive pragmatist. And whenever my father spoke, see, one person clapped. Because only one person understood what it meant. Which was what happened when my father spoke. You had to go home, open the dictionary to figure out what he was saying. Progressive pragmatist, which he would then have to explain what he meant by those two words. But he would say, I am a progressive, but I am pragmatic. And progressive policy is only as good as the functionality of the progressive policy. So you have to make it happen, and you have to be pragmatic. And that means working with the legislature and compromising to get things done, which has been what has been the constant since this nation was formed, right? Compromise is not a bad word. And the perseverance and the managerial skills to actually get things done. Because government that doesn't manage, government that doesn't achieve results, fails. My father would say, we need ideas that are good and sound, not ideas that sound good. It's not about... Why? Because if it sounds too good to be true, you know what? It's probably too good to be true. So we need smart, sound ideas. That's what he was all about. That's what Bill Clinton was all about. That's what Hillary Clinton is all about. I spent 8 years with Hillary Clinton. I was with her all over the country as a cabinet secretary. I was with her in England. I was with her in Haiti, with her in the Dominican Republic. Her orientation was always the same. What can we get done? How can we help people? How can we do it today? What do we have to do to make change? Not conceptual, theoretical, abstract. What do we do to improve people's lives? That's what Hillary is all about. You saw that when she was here as senator. It was always practical to make change. Get the Zadroga bill passed. Get $20 billion for 9/11. The farm-to-table initiatives. How do we get farmers together with New York State? The small business work that she did all over upstate New York, from the North Country down to the Southern Tier, making the marriage between businesses and government to actually make things happen. That's her whole orientation. And it is an orientation that we have learned from and accepted here in the state of New York. We are the capital for a Democratic administration that gets things done. That's who we are. I will hold our record up to any Democratic administration in the United States. We are progressives who don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk, we get it done. We show the nation how it is possible to have a progressive future. We did it when we passed marriage equality because love doesn't discriminate. We did it when we passed the SAFE Act because you can make guns safer and still respect the rights of hunters. We did it when we focused on upstate New York like a laser beam to turn around the economy and bring back jobs with the Buffalo Billion and Regional Economic Development Council. We did it when we passed 12 weeks of paid family leave, the best law in the United States. We did it when we passed $15 minimum wage in the state of New York, the first state to sign it. And the question for me in this Democratic primary is twofold. Because it's not about what we want to do, because we're all Democrats. We all basically want to do the same thing. We want better campaign finance laws, better education. We want to clean the environment. We want to raise the minimum wage. The question is not what do we want to do, it's who can get it done and who can win. That's the question. And my friend, the answer to that question is Hillary Rodham Clinton. And we have to promise each other today that we are going to leave this place and we are going to work every day to get our vote. We're going to deliver for Hillary because Hillary delivered for New York. And we'll never forget that. Are we going to do it? Are we going to get the vote out for Hillary? Is Hillary going to win? Is she going to win upstate New York? Is she going to win the rural counties? Are we going to make it happen? Let's go, Hillary! 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 Okay. Now I have a special treat. This is a treat for me personally. When I entered Clinton University, I was about 34 years old. I was all New York. And I went down to Washington, literally started on day one. I went down to help in the transition for the Clinton-Gore administration, which was very exciting. This was a new generation of leadership after so many years, and people were excited, and I went down to help on the transition because I'd been running homeless organizations, housing the homeless in New York, and I went down for the transition and worked on the transition. I got to meet Bill Clinton, which was a great thrill. And then I was lucky enough to be offered a position, Assistant Secretary at HUD, and got a chance to work with the president because he was very involved in HUD's issues: homeless, housing, affordable housing, economic development, urban development. The president just loved those issues. So I got a chance to work with him and know him a little bit, and he was very kind to me, and he took an interest in me, and he went out of his way with me to give me some pointers. One of the first pointers was that I was a little too New York. I was that fast-paced New York, that aggressive New York. So we were chatting on the plane one day, big treat, you go on Air Force One. That was huge, Air Force One. Oh yeah, all the little, when you're on the plane, it's even better, because everything says Air Force One, and I stole a couple of things that said Air Force One. They had those M&Ms that said Air Force One. I stole the Air Force One M&Ms. Statute of limitations ran. I remember once the president was talking to me about the difference between the New York cadence and the rest of the country. He said, when you go to some of these other places, you want to first visit with people. And I said, okay, what do I want to do again? You want to visit? I said, visit? What does that visit mean? He said, well, you sit down and you talk. I said, what do we talk about? He said, you talk about nothing. I said, but how do you talk about nothing? What do you say if you're talking about nothing? What are you saying? Well, there's no specific conversation. You just visit and talk. I said, there's no such concept in New York as visit and talk. You don't go and sit, you can't talk about nothing. What is the purpose of the conversation? He said, well, there is no purpose. I said, but then why are you having the conversation if there's no purpose for the conversation? It took me a couple of times to get this concept of visit. And then it was a whole different vocabulary of devices and speeches. You got some of my best lines there. That dog don't hunt. I love that. That's a beauty, isn't it really? You can use that anywhere. I love this one. If there's a turtle on top of the fence post, you know it didn't get there on its own. You ought to think about that one for a while. I didn't know that turtles couldn't climb, so I didn't get that. And then there was a beauty that I appreciate more. Sometimes I feel like I'm the fire hydrant looking at a pack of dogs. Yeah. Classics. I use that one with the legislature all the time. I use that in budget negotiations with the speakers on both houses. Well, I learned a lot, and it was a great opportunity. But the main lesson that Bill Clinton taught me, that Bill Clinton taught the United States of America, is that the concept of government can work. And the concept of government is very simple. We together can come together and make this place a better place. That's what government is about. We together can come together and make this place a better place. And that's really the issue in this campaign, my friends. Because what they're saying on the other side, what the Republicans are saying is, there is no we. There is no us. It's about individuals. And they're trying to separate us and divide us. And beware people who are different. You know what different means? Different skin color, different religion, different place of origin. Different is bad. We say the exact opposite. Different is not bad. We celebrate our diversity. We're all immigrants. And we know that in New York better than anywhere. You're going to kick out immigrants, look in the mirror. Unless you're a Native American, you're on your way out. And Bill Clinton showed that we can come together, and we can find our commonalities and our similarities, and we can cooperate and make this nation a better nation, and the collective vehicle for change is government. And he took this country from a place of need and division and deficit and brought 22 million new jobs, lowest unemployment rate in 30 years, increased the GDP by 35%, record low poverty rate, highest home ownership rate in history. He brought this nation to a better place, working together as the people of the United States of America. We know it can be done because he did it, and we're going to do it again. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and give a big New York welcome to President William Jefferson.
Governor, you learned all those lessons well. You're better than I am at this now. Thank you for your friendship, your service here, your service in our administration. Most important, for your support for Hillary. Senator Gillibrand is one of my all-time favorite candidates. First time I saw her running for something, I said, wow. You got it. She has served you so well, and she has been a wonderful, loyal friend to Hillary, and I'm very grateful for that. Congressman Tonko, thank you for your service and for participating. Comptroller DiNapoli, thank you for your long support, and I want to say a special word of thanks to Irene Stein and the Democratic caucus. You know, when you elected Hillary to the Senate, and we moved into this little town we live in, I didn't have any really official duties as a Senate spouse, except to come to the state fair, where she would parade me before all the farmers and everything, and say, look, I got this redneck husband, you know, I must know something about all this stuff that's going on up here. But I remember, I don't think Hillary was ever any happier at work in her life. And my acquaintance goes back 45 years now, than when she was a senator of New York. And she loved working up here. Her eyes would just dance when she'd describe, you know, this little company that I think had 3 employees making fishing poles. And she said, you know, you could sell this overseas if you got on the internet. And all of a sudden the guy tripled his employment and all of his fishermen in Norway, and she got to be known up here as Senator eBay. And not because the big things don't matter, but because the big things are made real in small steps, in changes in people's lives. If you ask anybody in my family how we measure public life, if you ask her, she'll never talk about the election she won or the positions she held. The test is, are people better off when you stopped than when you started? The children and young people have a brighter future. And are we coming together instead of being torn apart? It's not about how clever you are if you take down your opponents, how quick you are in repartee. It's really about whether people's lives change. And you've already heard a lot of what's been said, but she's the best change maker. Not just in this race, she's the best change maker I've ever known. And we don't have a lot of time to waste now. The reason that there's so much intensity in this election is that while it is true that we are doing better than any other big economy on earth today, I know that's hard to believe for some people, but in 400 years of economic history, no country has ever recovered from a financial crash as severe as the one we and other countries went through in less than 10 years. Not even once in 400 years. We got the jobs we lost back in 7.5 years, but not the incomes. So we're rolling into this election when, after inflation, 80% of the people haven't had a pay raise since the crash. About half the people are living on what they were living on the last day I was president. And I was telling the governor on the way up here, you know, on my mother's side of the family, I'm Irish, and I did a little work in Northern Ireland, you may remember, when I was president. And we just celebrated the 100th anniversary of Irish independence with the uprising in Easter 1916. Almost 500 people were killed just on that day, and it all happened in the background of World War I. And I read again an original copy of the Irish Declaration of Independence, which had 3 references to women in 485 words, established itself as a place of gender equality, religious equality, openness to people of all backgrounds. A year before the women had to vote in America. But the most important thing is, it looks great and happy and grand from 100 years away. At the time, there was blood running in the streets against the background of World War I. And the greatest Irish poet, William Butler Yeats, who favored Irish independence, but was sober about what went on, wrote a poem called Easter 1916, which one line of that poem describes a lot of the intense and often irrational feelings in this election year. Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. And what I come to you to say is that I think we're just as close of being able to rise again as we did in the 1990s. We can all grow together, and I think it would be a mistake to let it make a stone of the head. We've got to think our way through this. We know what works. What works is when there's inclusive economics and shared prosperity. So we need to create more jobs, train people to work, and deal with the number one source of income inequality today, Hillary believes and I believe, which is all these corporations giving 80 to 90% of their income to their stockholders and top management. This is a relatively new phenomenon. I mean, you know, back in the dark ages when I met Hillary in law school, we were still being taught the way law students have been taught since the 30s. A corporation is not a person, it's a creature of the state. It gets privilege. And in return for them, it has more or less equal responsibilities to its customers, its employees, its communities, and its shareholders. Interestingly enough, there are lots of studies, I could fill this room with them, the companies that still follow that philosophy, that say, look, if you want your money back in a year and a day to grab your capital gains, please invest with someone else. If you want a company that will make you a good return over any 5 to 7 year period, we're your company. But we are not going to abandon our people. We're not going to abandon our communities. We're not going to abandon our core mission to our customers. We're going to be faithful, and we will make money. And that's what we need again in America. So she has really talked about this at some length. We need to give companies incentives to share profits with their employees and not let everybody get that whopping capital gains cut in a year and a day. They should hold it longer and then phase it down. Because we'll never overcome this inequality thing unless we get some help from the private sector for these companies. And we got to change the incentives. But we have to have more jobs too, and infrastructure. We flew over the new Tappan Zee Bridge on the way up here. And you see it there, and I drive over the old one all the time, so I look at it and it just makes you sort of perk up. First, jobs are created. Second, it proves we can do something. Everybody I know who lives in and around New York City is breathlessly waiting for the LaGuardia project. These things are important. New York can lead the way in the revolution of clean energy. Every time Hillary says, I'm going to put up 500 million solar panels in the next 4 years, on the east half of the country, people roll their eyes and think, oh, she's meant to give that speech in New York. New Jersey has the second largest number of installed solar panels in this country. Don't you forget that. There are 3 states in America that already get more than a third of their electricity from the wind. We can do this together, and we ought to do it. We also have to realize there are certain barriers to participation. We will never get back in the top 10 as we always were before in the participation of women in the workforce unless we have equal pay and some form of paid leave. I really want to congratulate the governor and the legislature here on what they did on 2 things. First, the minimum wage law, and second, in restoring, because it is designed the way all sensible economists think it should be designed across the country, to be brought in different phases in different parts of the state, depending on what their incomes are and their potential is. California adopted a law very much like it, and I predict to you that this will be the trend throughout the country, that people will say, let's have that as a goal, but use the sensible economics of doing it in a way that creates jobs and lifts incomes. So I feel great about that. And I feel good about what you were able to do in Albany this year for the SUNY and the community college networks, and finally put some new money in there. But I think it's important. That the federal government help to make college more affordable for everyone and to make the debt more manageable. Maybe the most interesting thing that is in Hillary's plan is that no matter how much money you borrow from whatever source, she believes since an education is a lifetime asset, you should be able to pay for it just like you pay for a home, with a mortgage-like instrument over 20 years. If you don't have it all paid off in 20 years, the rest is forgiven. And in no year could you be required to pay more than 10% of your after-tax income. Now just think about that. And if you do a couple of years in an AmeriCorps-like job, and she's trying to almost triple as an AmeriCorps, all the community service programs, you get more than $23,000 tax-free to put against the debt. But if you paid it out, just think what this would mean. Think how many young people are still living at home with their parents because they can't make a rent payment and a loan payment. Well, you can move out of your parents' house. think if since the loan is tied to your income, think how many people have taken jobs just at the start of their careers when they're full of hope that they don't really like very much because the job they do like pays less. Well, you can take that job now because your loan payment is tied not to how much you borrowed, but to how much you're making. So you get labor mobility. Think of how many young people have dreamed of borrowing $50,000, $60,000 to open a small business, organic bakery or something. Well, you can't get a loan now because your credit rating will be underwater because of the student debt. But if you have the new system, you can, because your payment is fixed. And if, like most small business people, you have good years and bad, and it's harder when you start than when you get going, it doesn't matter. Your payments will go down with that. This one thing could revolutionize potential for young people in America and allow us to all rise together. That's what she is all about. So we want you all together. All of you know up here that she devoted uncanny amounts of time and creativity to small towns and rural areas. And it's really, really important because in New York and elsewhere, the biggest impact of this nationwide prescription drug and heroin epidemic is in small towns and rural America. And it is, if you listen to some healthcare expert talk about it, they'll say, well, it's the drug problem. But what about the overall life expectancy of working class people in those areas? Going down for the first time in 60 years. They said, well, in addition to the drug problem, there's the alcoholism problem. And then there's the suicide problem. And then there's the fact that only in this group, middle-aged, working-class Americans, it's the smoking rate for women now back up to the smoking rate for men. Oh, they'll give you, you get a dry public health explanation. Hillary knows that a lot of these people are dying of a broken heart because they think every tomorrow is going to be like yesterday. And that if we want to all rise together, we have to give people something to look forward to in the morning. So she was the first candidate, I believe, both to propose a major $10 billion investment to treat this like a public health problem with more mental health and more treatment, and simultaneously another whopping investment to give people extra financial incentives to invest in all these people that have been left out and left behind. Look, you can make money anywhere in America if they're connected to the broadband and it's affordable. You got broadband speeds that are affordable and competitive, you can make money anywhere. But not without investment. And I have supported the governor and all of his economic development initiatives from the first day he was there, but you need the federal government to be able to do more to help you and support you. So that's my pitch. I think she's got the best idea. She's certainly got the best record as a change maker. She is the best qualified to go in a very troubled world and try to make good things happen, keep big bad things from happening, and bring us together instead of tearing us apart. And nobody look, I know a lot of Democrats say, well, I don't care about that foreign policy stuff. You should this time. You should this time for a simple reason. First of all, on pure humanitarian concerns, it should bother you that we have the largest number of migrants since World War II. This is a country, ours, as the governor said, made by immigrants. We don't agree with the fellow in the other part that wants to build a wall. And even if you build one, you can't keep the social media out. Right? So Hillary basically believes, whether we like it or not, we are doomed to share this small ship of Earth together, and we better find a way to have less inequality and more shared prosperity. Less instability and more shared communities, and less political extremism and more common citizen governance. Now that's so I ask you to support her for that reason. Now let's get to the meat of the coconut here. New York has a big challenge. She has always had your back. You gave her a chance and she won. There's hardly a place she can go upstate that she cannot cite some particular thing she did for somebody. And a lot of people say, well, who cares? Oh, presidents should just be the rhetoric guys. That's work for the other people to do. No, it's not. They used to make fun of me all the time. During budget season, Andrew sat through a minute. We'd have these budget sessions, and I'd literally get criticized in the Washington Post saying, Bill Clinton is too much in the weeds of this budget. That's not what presidents do. They just go give speeches. Howard Hell's supposed to fix the budget. Well, how the American people live is more affected by what was in that budget than whatever speech I was giving that day. And I'd been a governor for 12 years. I thought it mattered. I've never ceased to be amazed that politics is the only profession in the United States where people are actually surprised if you know what you're talking about. Entertainers. I never will forget, we were in a budget session one day, and we had to make a number. We had to cut the deficit some more, because we were determined to bring it down into balance. And this, my O&P director said, well, of course we're going to slash these farm subsidies. They're all corporate welfare. And I said, they are in some places. But I said, I live in a state where there aren't any corporate farms tilling the soil. And the reason for these subsidies originally was, if you're a family farmer, you can't stand more than one or maybe two bad crop years at the most. It is true the program has been abused. It is true we need to redirect it. It's true more people like the farmers in New York, the fruits and vegetables and all that. And it's true that nothing's perfect, so we're going to hurt some people that actually get hurt. But when you do that, don't enjoy it. Respect the fact that there are people whose lives are at stake. I remember when we ended the tobacco support program and essentially ended the, American support for tobacco, which I thought was essential for public health reasons. I went to North Carolina and established and announced it in a tobacco shed. Yeah. And everybody said, they're going to kill you. I said, no, they're not. They don't want their kids to get cancer. They don't want to export cancer abroad. They just don't want to be left high and dry. They don't know how they're going to make a living. They don't know how they're going to raise their kids. They don't know if their culture is being condemned for something they didn't know was wrong when they did it. So just take a deep breath. That's the way we got to do this again. We spend too much time screaming at each other. We need to be neighbors again. We need to be friends I have almost total recall of the stories that Hillary has told me about what she was able to do as a senator in upstate New York and how much she loved it. I cherish our family vacations here. It tickles me when the governor gets a victory in the legislature. And I remember when I was a governor, he was giving you some of my old sayings. My best old saying is that the governor in the legislature is like the superintendent of a cemetery. There are a lot of people under you, but nobody's listening. Anyway, so here's what it looked. Let me say one just pure, naked political thing. We're going to have this election Tuesday. 8 years ago, when she and President Obama ran against each other, it was a tightly fought, exciting primary. We had a record turnout. And you stayed with her and she prevailed. But the memories were fresher then than they are now among many voters, especially younger voters, about what she had actually done. In Illinois, the president's home state, even though she was born there, I was thinking of that when I saw Hillary's folder in mine and I said, he had a birth certificate that said he was born in New York. That he won, and he should have. It was his state. He served in the Senate. But here's what you need to know. Even though we had a record turnout, and New York is 50% larger than Illinois, Illinois cast 50% more votes than New York for a very simple reason. They have state and local races on the ballot at the same time. This is the only state in America of any size that has a standalone primary. Therefore, if you are really for her, I want you to spend between now and Tuesday telling people they need to show up, be counted, be heard. She was there for you, you need to be there for her. We need you. And look, I tell you, there's been a lot of theater in this race, and a lot of it's been entertaining, and some of it's been kind of revolting. But there'll be a lot more. But when it's all done, when everybody gets done calling everybody names, and this latest breathless attack comes out, when all this stuff's happening, the people here who are full citizens of America will still need an America where people with disabilities are seen and empowered. They don't need that. The young people here will still need a college education that is debt-free and debt that is completely manageable. The people living in small towns will still need to be brought into the global economy through access to affordable broadband, and we still need to keep bringing manufacturing jobs back to upstate. We've got a lot of stuff to do. We don't have to do it. And that's why what Senator Gillibrand said meant so much to me. I believe that Hillary's the best single change maker I've ever worked with. Not only because of what she did here as a senator, because she got the only deal that survives our attempts to get along with Mr. Putin and Russia, that reduces the chances of accidental or intentional nuclear war, and had to get 67 votes in the Senate, which she got. That's a lot of Republicans. And the agreement on the Iran sanctions and so much more. Because she kept going after we got beat on health care in the White House and passed the Children's Health Insurance Program. 8.5 million kids are insured under it. She even got the House Republican leader, Tom DeLay, to co-sponsor a bill to help move more kids out of foster care into permanent homes. And he couldn't stand me. But this is Hillary now. She went to him and she said, look, Congressman, I know we don't agree on much. He said, come on, Hillary, do we agree on anything? She said, yes, we do. You love your kids, don't you? He said, please. What's that got to do with anything? And she said, Congressman, for all our disagreements, I know you adopted those children, and I honor you for it. And she sort of had it. Not in a bad way. He said, okay, what's the problem? She said, you got all these kids in foster care. They're going to age out. There's no money to support them. They got no place to go, nothing to do. What are we going to do? And people don't want to adopt children once they're not infants anymore. They're scared they can't change. The people who are scared to adopt children with special needs, afraid they can't afford it. What do you want to do about it? She said, oh, come on, you're a Republican. You love all those tax cuts and stuff. Said, let's give people a whopping tax credit if they'll adopt a child who's not an infant anymore, and a bigger one if they'll adopt a child with special needs. And then you've got to be for some government support to help people manage this, and then to help the people who are coming out of prison to do well. All I had to do was sign the bill. They figured if both of them were on it. But here's what I know. By the time I left office, there was an 80% increase in the adoption of children out of foster homes. She always makes something go happen. So, you just remember that. You're wasting time here with us. We got time from now till Tuesday to remind people that the future of this country is on the line. The future of the Supreme Court, the future of our economic programs, the future of our social programs, the place of whether we can prosper together, whether we can live together, whether we can be citizens together. Every place in the world that's happening. Good things are happening. Every place in the world, people are looking for new ways to divide people and convince them that our differences are all that matter. Good things are not happening. We have to decide. We are just this close to being able to grow together again. If we do the right things with the right leader in the right direction, we are going to have a decade that will make the 1990s, when I had the honor to serve, look like just a nice little warm-up. But we have to do it together. Every election is basically an employment interview and a hiring decision. You will never have anybody you know better who loves you more, who will do more. So I am imploring you. You got just 3 days left. go out and make sure people understand that Tuesday is every bit as important as Election Day in November, and Hillary needs your help. You'll never be sorry to get it. Thank you.